everybody. I want to go ahead and kick this month's webinar off. October's webinar was Not So Scary, Things the Best Marketers Should Not Be Afraid of. We picked this theme and we held this theme throughout our blog for this month as well, and we just wanted to present to everybody a few of the often overlooked topics that marketers kind of ignore and or even shy away from because they don't know what the results will be, or sometimes just don't know how to correctly manage them. And so we wanted to just write a few different articles about how marketers can overcome some of those fears, and then this webinar will address a few of the selected ones that we think make the biggest impact for your bottom line. And so we hope you enjoy this month's Fluid Webinar Series event. As always, I'm Dustin Cederholm. I'll be your host. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager for Fluid. My expertise is in conversion rate optimization and lead generation for enterprise model businesses. I've been leading a team here at Fluid for the past 6 months or so, and we've been able to bring on a lot larger clientele on average, and we've been able to enjoy a lot of those successes. And we wanted to pass down kind of what we were able to do to see some of those improvements and how you can put them into your own business as well. I want to introduce our co-presenter today. Phil, unfortunately, was out sick, but we're actually really happy to have Jon Rodriguez, my counterpart, and probably the true expert on a lot of the subject matter here. So, Jon, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I don't know about the true expert part, but my name is Jon Rodriguez. I'm actually born and raised here in Utah. Despite what the slide says, I am not a managing director or partner. I'm one of the digital marketing managers here at Fluid. I specialize more in search and organic traffic coming to the website. I love Google Analytics. I love diving into the data that's there, kind of connecting dots there. But anyways, I started out at SEO.com a couple years ago. I've been at Fluid Advertising for nearly 3 years. I've worked on a lot of local clients, a lot of national clients, a lot of small clients, a lot of big clients, just kind of everything. I love working here at Fluid Advertising, and again, I do a lot more of the search engine optimization and organic traffic drives to websites.
Awesome. Well, glad we could do this together this month, Jon.
Yeah, me too. I'm kind of happy Phil's sick. Well, in which case, I'm not happy you're sick.
I don't know if Phil's sick or just unable, but I'm sure this will be far improved. We want to just remind you today the Fluid Webinar Series can be found on our Twitter handle at #FluidWebinarSeries. You can chat to any of us at Dustin Cederholm or at our corporate Twitter account at GetFluid. We will be live tweeting this event as well, and so follow along and ask any questions, and we'll respond via social media. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump into, we have 5 or 6 of these, and we wanted to make this a little bit more anecdotal and conversational between Jon and myself, and we wanted to address a few of the things that we think you guys could be doing, especially as you look to be planning for the 2016 year. And so our first slide is just never fear, follow the leader. Learn to use marketing strategies that your competition's clients, friends have used, and then use them better. And so we always hear the saying, don't recreate the wheel. Oftentimes we don't practice that as much as we would like, and I think it's really important to keep an eye on what you are starting from scratch versus what you can kind of take from a template or just from a general existing idea of something that you might already have. And so I think following the leader is a great opportunity for you to continue to do great marketing tactics that are kind of the stalwarts of the industry. I mean, Jon, I don't think email, social media, or the phone calls are going away anytime soon.
I don't think so.
I mean, whereas SEO is another one of those kind of topics that I think people might say is a dying breed, but everybody that I know within marketing is still doing SEO. I mean, why is that? And I don't really want to talk about the value of SEO.
I would say that it's evolving. Granted, I don't do the same things on a daily basis that I did 4 years ago, just because Google might think they were kind of spammy or outdated. And so my job position has really evolved. And so, again, some of the same tactics that work today will continue working. And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves in here at Fluid Advertising, is that the tactics that we use from a search engine perspective are those that are lasting tactics. They won't get penalized one day. We don't have to worry about a new Google update coming around and smashing it out. But again, an SEO's job is always changing and always evolving. And so it's always kind of a fun industry to be in, because you can't just sit back.
Absolutely. And yeah, I actually read an article the other day that's talking about content marketing as being kind of umbrella featuring SEO, and how the two really play well together, and how SEO benefits content marketing so much and vice versa, but they're really not strong one without the other. And so it has been interesting to see how SEO evolves, but at the same time how SEO is ever present. I think email's the same way. We talk about email, the big change probably there is simply that it's going to mobile, and how many people are actually checking their email, how many emails people are getting. But email, certainly to this day, is probably one of the best marketing tactics we have out there, and is one, if you have a competitor, you might be looking at their monthly newsletter. What is it that they're doing? What do you like? And how can you kind of repurpose that to put your own spin on it and make it yours? But at the same time, you can kind of get these types of marketing channels up and running fairly quickly, and the effect is really quite large.
You know, one thing that I see on a daily basis is that people that I might consider a client competitor, the client may not necessarily think is a competitor of theirs. Because when I am thinking of competitor, I go to Google, type in a keyword, and see which websites are coming up. And that might not be, some of the competitors that the client thinks are their real competitors. And so when you're kind of following the leader, it's a great idea to go to Google, type in a search phrase, see which websites come up, and see what they have in common, because those could be some elements that you might need to kind of work into your own site, because we can already establish that Google is giving them a lot of value if they're ranking really well. Granted, there are hundreds of ranking factors. It's still nice to evaluate the sites that are appearing first in search.
Absolutely. And so I think really just the takeaway from this little section is as you look to 2016 and you're doing your planning, what areas can you make a little bit easier, and which can you really focus on doing well when they are such long-standing marketing mediums that have been successful? And so contradictory to that slide, we will go into our next don't fear, but that's zig when others zag. And this is pretty much the opposite of what we're talking about, but we want to make it clear that before there, we just think that there are base core items to marketing that you can do quite easily, and other people are helping you kind of identify the path that you're going down with that, and you can do common things there. But to make yourself have a true brand that stands out against the others, you will have to do something differently. And so I kind of wanted to just go over some of the more fun campaigns that we've seen, John, over the last year or so. And one of the really cool ones I think we show in this image right here is how Game of Thrones did some really neat, even augmented reality pieces that are just so different than how most of your cable companies are currently advertising for a show. These are just pictures. The one is actually the dragon projected up onto the HBO building in Los Angeles, and the other is a Game of Thrones shadow in the New York Times magazine. So people are just opening these and unsuspectingly getting this really, really neat Game of Thrones. I have to say I'm a huge dragon fan, so
I love that one over the newspaper. That silhouette of the dragon is so fun. I mean, just imagine if you were going through the paper that day and you open it up and saw this huge silhouette of a dragon. I just love that. It's great.
I think it's interesting, too, that for such a modern-day HBO digital type of a thing, they're advertising in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody says snail mail is dead, which has left a void in snail mail, and now is there an opportunity for you to actually, make an impact by sending a really nice mailed piece? It's just really funny how there's no one strategy, and it never really seems that anything does die, but it's fun if you can do something opposite. What other campaigns, John, do you come to mind when you think about companies that have kind of zigged?
Well, there are two different ones. One of the ones that I've really enjoyed recently is the Dollar Shave Club. You know, it has that one guy, and he's just kind of casually walking through his warehouse, talking about how expensive regular razors are and then how inexpensive his are, but it's just so comical and funny, and it looks like it's all one long shoot. It's just awesome. Like, I just really enjoy it. It's really funny. It's quirky. It shows that the competitors are charging a ridiculous price and that theirs are just as high quality but far cheaper. And so to me, that's kind of zigging, if you will, when others zag.
Absolutely. And I was trying to work this slide into the presentation. I don't think I successfully did it, so maybe this is a good time to bring it up. But just how quirky some of the ads are, you know, and how I often think that brands get really caught up in being so business-like that they're a little stuffy. And even at the CEO level, it's really amazing to see the companies that can kind of let go a little bit and allow humor and things to take place in the marketing, and just how much more impactful and engaging that is to you. So again, as you guys kind of work into your next year, I think to be open within the communication that you guys allow to come out, be unique and be, you know, maybe a little bit more on the edge than you have been.
Not to interrupt you, there was another commercial that I saw just yesterday from Southern Comfort, kind of known for whiskey and, you know, kind of the alcohol scene. But this commercial, it was great. It had this old guy, kind of cowboy-looking guy that was in a salon, and it had all these older women sitting back in those machines that kind of dry their hair, and he's holding a cup of whiskey, and he's doing karate in front of them. And then at the end, it just says, whatever makes you comfortable. And so it was just so quirky and different, but it's so fun at the same time. Generally, when you think of other, you know, whiskey brands, they try to be so suave or just so mysterious, but this one was just funny. Completely different than what I thought it was, but really attractive and maintained my attention throughout the whole ad. And then I went and searched for others as well. And so it's fun to see when companies break out of their shell.
Absolutely. It's fun for us as a marketing team to have that permission as well. The creative team here at Fluid just really goes crazy for that, and we usually see that the result is a lot better as well.
I'm always really jealous of our creative team's job titles, just because their creativity flows into the work. Not that, you know, for my job position or yours, we can't be creative, but I just love that they do that on a regular daily basis.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one, and one most people don't really want to talk about. Probably one of the harder conversations that we have, but it's don't fear your budget meeting. This is just a funny, don't say you didn't get your budget approved. It feels like in marketing we can never get our budget approved, and it's always the first to be cut. But I think that there's a few tricks that you can bring to a budget meeting that you might employ, especially maybe as you're in that scenario right now at your current company. Jon, do you have any, just off the top of your head, marketing budget tricks and tips?
Well, you know, it's funny because being that this whole webinar is kind of about doing things that you might be afraid of, I've always been the guy that's kind of afraid to ask for more budget. And so I've always been really impressed when you and I are in meetings together and we're going over things, and then you just kind of very bluntly but politely say, to get this done, we need this much more budget per month, you know, for the next 2 or 3 months. And it always kind of makes me, you know, kind of shrivel up a little bit. But then when they accept it openly, it made me feel a lot better about it. And so that's never something that I've been good at doing. So I have no tips on that.
Sure. Well, I think you made the point right there, just communication. And, you know, in your role, if you're talking to you know, the CEO or the president or some C-level decision maker, you are that person yourself and you're listening to your marketing team's pitch. I think just communication on both ends is so critical. But I also like a lot of what we try to bring into that, which is just the data aspect of it. I don't know that we really, at least at Fluid, are ever asking for budget without numbers behind it. And that's an interesting story I was telling the other day, but one of our counterparts and a partner of ours at Deseret Digital Media, who do, you know, obviously television and radio and some large media buys, they're actually a provider and network for it. But they've stopped allowing campaigns that run under a certain amount, and that threshold for them, and I actually won't even say it just because I don't want to misspeak, But their threshold hit a point where they were actually studying the campaigns where they had the most budget in them and then the campaigns with the least, and they ultimately decided that there was a level of negative return, that if you weren't actually investing enough, it wouldn't have a good enough impact, and so they've gone away from even accepting those types of plans. And you think about that as an internal concept. Are you actually giving somebody enough budget for them to succeed? If you are seeing that things are rolling over year after year, project kind of gets steam and then kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, John? Just kind of fizzles out, I guess. And that's a continual habit. You might look at, are you actually giving something the budget that it requires? On the other side, are you, coming back to kind of follow the leader, are you putting budget dollars in places that you could actually save money and by, using old materials and cutting it up, or just working off of a similar template, so that you can actually give some of the more modern and digital, which does have kind of a price tag to it. Can you reallocate the budget without really having to go over? And so I think understanding the data, and a lot of that for you, John, is analytics. You can't tell you how many of our clients don't know how to log into their analytics. Kind of frightening for us, and something that we think even 5-10 minutes a day would be really useful for you to understand what's going on your website. And it can give you insights to your website, your social media, your email. Google Analytics is kind of an aggregate source for all the data that you really want.
Well, analytics is great because you wouldn't even have to log in. You could just set up a custom email to send to you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, that covers everything you want to see in it, whether it's just traffic or page views or bounce rate. But then you can also set up, live alerts so that if your traffic drops 10% overnight, you'll be able to see that. It will email you any emergencies, anything like that. But analytics is fantastic, especially when you need a few more arrows in your quiver to go and ask for more budget. It's always difficult to go into those kind of meetings and say, hey, we don't have any data that we want to show you, but please give us more money.
Right.
And so the more statistics, the more ammunition that you have through analytics will really help, get that bigger budget that you've been wanting.
Agreed. I mean, you're going in asking for numbers, you should bring numbers, and be familiar whether you're on the C-level or on the management level, or just the ones doing the fulfillment. But letting your entire team know where you stand really helps the group know where they're charging towards, and then when you're asking for budget, it's based on good reasoning. We'll go ahead and speed up a bit here, but never fear reporting a bad campaign. I think that's one of the largest fears in a marketing agency. There could be, we obviously never want to fail, but unfortunately it is inevitable, and the really good brands out there are doing a lot more than just failing in campaigns or missing their mark in a campaign, but they're really learning from every campaign and making the next one that much better. We do extensive testing on almost every one of our campaigns, whether it's heat mapping or actually recording the user's mouse as it kind of tracks through the website. But these kinds of tests really teach us, what is my user doing? What is the user behavior that we want to employ? And, so if we don't actually get the cells, or if we're not able to figure out what we really need, there is so much information in that data. And again, coming back to analytics and some of these heat mapping programs that are free or cheap enough that you could be using them, it's just incredible, like how you can reduce the resistance to a call to action, but how there might just be something on your page that is killing your conversion and you have no idea, but it has nothing to do with your content or your offer. It's just a user interaction feature that you might need to understand. And so every campaign offers information for you guys to learn something. And I would try to look at whatever's positive in your own campaigns that aren't working, but try to really find the stuff, what did work about it, because there's something in every campaign that was successful.
Well, again, we're kind of bringing it back to Google Analytics. You can identify a lot of pages that might have a really high number of page views but a really high bounce rate, or people are immediately leaving the page, so it's not set up for conversion. Or maybe they're staying on the page for a while, but the actual goal that you set up, maybe a form submission or a phone call, your visitors aren't completing that. And so within every single page of your website, it should be set up to convert. And so the simplest of websites always convert best, where you're not trying to make it really fancy or over the top. Just those really simple pages are always going to convert best. But again, through analytics, you can identify those pages that, let's say, have the most page views, have really high, several minutes on page, for example, but maybe don't convert very well. And so you can identify those pages through analytics to see which pages might need a little bit more work within the conversion area.
That's absolutely true. So again, just to take away, as you look to the new year, what is it you're going to learn from each campaign? And do you hold a follow-up meeting to understand what did we actually learn, regardless of the success of the campaign? Never fear getting to know your customer. This one seems like something everybody is already doing, and I feel like everybody, when I first sit down with them, thinks they know who their customer is, but as we talk, it becomes more and more unclear. And maybe you know that you have that problem and don't know how to solve it. I know, John, you talk about personas a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How I guess, would personas play into even analytics or delivering the site?
Well, it's kind of funny because you might ask your client what their customer is, and they will tell you who they want, but not who they currently are converting. And those are two completely different things. You know, who your website is currently converting and who they want to convert, not the same. And so it's very important to identify the types of people that are coming to your website versus the types of people you want to come to your website. And so through targeted content, you can identify, or the types of people that are coming to your website, but also through your content, you can speak to the types of people you want better. And so identifying the personas of your buyer persona that's coming to the website is extremely important, because then you can create custom content around that. So for example, you could create an infographic that's meant just for those C-level type workers. And that could be far more effective than just creating a very bland blog post that really doesn't speak very much, but you could get a lot more detail with an infographic or something like that. And so identifying those personas of who you are currently converting versus who you want to convert is still very important.
And just thinking about a few of the ways that you can figure out who really is we think of sales and marketing all the time, and I think it's funny that customer service is not in the conversation as much. Customer service is really the body that can tell you exactly who your client is, how they react. So even not going off the heat mapping, but using traditional research, just talking to a human, those are the ones who are going to know, and they're the ones that can help you really deliver the right content and create your website to speak and answer the right questions. Other ways that we wanted to talk through are just referrals and reviews. I mean, go straight to the horse's mouth. Ask them for referrals and reviews of what you're doing. And if you're getting bad reviews, just make sure that you're responding appropriately and put in the necessary fixes to solve those issues. If you get bad reviews, it's a great time just to find ways to improve, coach up at that point. Annual surveys.
Sorry, just kind of speaking about reviews, it's funny, if I'm looking for, let's say, a restaurant near me, a Mexican restaurant, and I look and I see one that has, 40 5-star reviews, and there's not any negative comments, I might honestly not take that as seriously. I might think that the boss went and told their employees to go and, give them all great ratings. But when I see that other restaurant that might have 4.5 stars and then has a few negative comments, I might pay attention to that one a little bit more, especially if the owner has responded to those negative comments, because that's showing that, that they check online for their reputation and that they see that somebody might have had a negative experience, but they tried to make it right. And so I will always pay more attention to those reviews that aren't those perfect 5 stars, because they seem more real to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, talk about the SEO impact of reviews right now.
Reviews are gigantic, especially if you have a local business. It's not necessarily a national type thing. Those reviews, even from a human perspective, are going to be very important. But from a search end perspective, Google is paying attention to all the reviews that you're getting on Yelp or Foursquare, any sort of citation page like that. Google is going to be paying attention to all of those, because it wants to know how good of an experience somebody had at your restaurant. It wants to know if it was bad. It wants to know if it was good. It just wants to know that people are talking about it. And so from an SEO perspective, reviews will help you get a little bit higher ranking within that local pack, and hopefully a little bit more traffic to the website as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the human aspect, Google's trying to figure out the human aspect of it, and then the way we react to other people's writings. There's nothing more authoritative than our peers and people that we semi-trust, I guess.
Unless it's like one of your aunts or uncles.
Right. You know this person. But so reviews, the other is annual surveys, and I just wanted to touch real quick on annual surveys. I go into so many situations where an annual survey takes so much to get out the door, and it really shouldn't. If you're struggling and you find that you have 15 questions on your annual survey, do whatever you can, get it to 3 to 5, and just get it out. People will respond better to fewer questions, and just to know that you're out there listening is probably bigger impact than even just having them fill out the survey. And so when it takes so many months for us to get our annual survey out, this year just focus on your core clients and give them something short and sweet that they can respond to and just show that you're out there listening. Another huge way for you guys to create a relationship, but also begin to better understand what it is they need, the good and the bad. Personal calls, there's nothing more important than just actually picking the phone up and talking to a customer. If you've ever been to the bank, I go to U.S. Bank all the time, and they do secret shopper almost every fifth visitor or something to that effect.
Whoa.
And you will get a personal phone call, and your rating counts, and that's how they are judged, and I think we don't have to do that, meaning that we're kind of micromanaging our teams that way, but they're doing it because that's how bad they want to understand their client and how well they are actually doing, and there's no better place to do it just than a quick call. But research sessions is probably a little bit broader thing, but it's never bad actually just to get a round table of your customers to hear them out and see what it is that they need, especially as you're doing marketing campaign planning. It's incredibly helpful to actually hear from them. Back to what Jon was saying, the difference of who you think you have coming to your site and who you actually really want coming to your site, and a lot of those things can be figured out in those campaigns. And then lastly, just your holiday gifts, a great way to build that relationship and make it unique, make it something special. It doesn't have to be huge. I think it's just the touch point that matters.
Like Star Wars?
Yes, you know, if we're going to do our shameless plug to all those on and to our clients and friends, we will be having a Star Wars event that maybe we have let you know all too early about, but that'll be our webinar secret of the day. And the last one is actually something to fear. And you should fear the dark.
Don't tell my 2-year-old that.
Yeah, don't get lost in the dark. Marketing isn't a place that you want to exist where you aren't paying attention to what's being said about you, about your customers, and it's so easy, again, with analytical tools, Google Alerts, that you can actually be hearing everything about your brand, and these are automated reports that will come to your inbox that you can do. But the other thing is kind of the thought leadership aspect of it. Just if you're not talking about yourself, somebody else is, and they're the ones that are kind of driving the conversation. And so right now you hear a ton about content marketing, and I think it's just huge. And what it's all about is you putting a personal touch and your expertise into what you know. And if you're not putting that content out, you're not engaged in the conversation, and somebody else is driving it for you. I don't know, Jon, do you have any example of people who you'd like to see that better?
Well, you know, kind of speaking of a little bit more to the content marketing, again, let's say that I go to Google and I'm typing in something that I want to know. You know, a good example is might be a facial plastic surgeon. Let's say that I'm looking for before and after photos, or how long the procedure lasts, how much it costs. Google doesn't want me to go back and forth between the search result to a website, and back to the search result, then to the website, back to the search result. And so with content marketing, we can establish that you guys, that your brand, that your website is the ultimate professional and experts within that area. So content marketing is to make it so that people don't push that back button to go to the search results again to look for somebody else. Content marketing is making your website deserve to rank at the top of that search result page. It's making your customers know that there isn't anyone better at what you do than you. And so that content marketing aspect, it really shouldn't just be just for fun, but it really should show that you guys are the leaders within your respective industries. And so that content marketing is far more than just writing a fun article with a clever title that might, have a high time on page, but then a high exit rate.
And extending all of that even to where Jon was talking about responding to reviews. Just be seen, be heard. And so I think just as you kind of look again to your current coming year, what is it that you are maybe not engaging with, or could you enter a conversation and set your brand apart that you're not currently doing? And so if you're not making an impact, then you're silent, and people aren't going to be able to find you the way that they want.
Just zigging when others are lagging.
Or zagging with it all and not doing anything.
Or zagging when you agree.
Yes, sir. So that's actually, we just wanted a short and sweet one. We know most people are pretty busy, it seems, this time of year. So quickly in summary, some of our points: think, follow the leader. Zig when others zag. Jon, what was your example there?
The Dollar Shave Club.
Yes, I think another great example, which is just hilarious and kind of got us on the topic of how you can talk a little bit differently and make a unique brand out of it. Win your marketing budget. Many tools. Jon is an expert and a resource for this. He's written many articles on our blog about how to use analytics and how to set up some of those custom reports. But he's a resource for you guys out there as you need. And we're always happy to help. Just winning your marketing budget is super important. There's some very simple tools out there that I think everybody should be utilizing. So go in with numbers to win numbers. Learn from your campaigns. There's a good nugget in every campaign, and what can you learn? Make sure you sit down with your teams and actually analyze each campaign and figure out what went right, what went wrong, and focus on what went right. And getting to know your customers. Review is probably one of the strongest SEO factors, as well as just personal factors of helping you make a decision. And then for you to understand what is your messaging, how do you want to contact your customers. The only way you can do that is if you actually get to know them. It's not as scary as you think, and you might find out it's kind of fun. And then lastly, don't get lost in the dark if you're not guiding your brand, somebody else is. So I think that's our October webinar for today. I think we might have a few questions to go over. Jon, you have a minute to go over a quick Q&A?
Of course.
All right. Let me see here. Our first question is for you, Jon. If kind of talking more, can you speak to all of the different tools to kind of watch personas and watch traffic and to understand the pages and how sites are working? But with so many tools available, where would you start?
That's a surprisingly large question, because again, defining personas is one of those things that might be a little intimidating, but when you utilize the proper tools, it really isn't that difficult. Some of the tools that I would utilize when trying to define those personas or really understand the people that are coming to your website, first, again, and I know I've said it several times, is Google Analytics. While it may not give a specific identity to each visitor, you can still see, kind of from a more broader aspect, the behavior that people are taking on the website. And so let's say that we have a contact form on our contact page, but no one's getting there. Maybe we have to move that page to one of the most highly viewed or trafficked pages on the website. And so there are certain things that we can do within analytics that will help us identify kind of that low-hanging fruit. But again, analytics is great. One of the other tools that I use the most often is Google Search Console. It used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. They've really really upped their game there, where they've included a few more tools. You can see the types of, broadly the types of phrases that people are using to get to your website, but also you can see how specific pages are performing within the search results page. And so you can see how many times, let's say your home page is appearing in search, how many impressions it's getting. But also, besides those two tools, you can look at Google Trends, for example, which is a really fun one, because you can see how people are evolving their search over time, and maybe you need to target a different phrase because people don't use that phrase any longer. But also Google Trends has a really fun kind of theme thing right now where you can see different trends of costumes for Halloween throughout the United States. It's just kind of a really fun tool that they have. Not that that is as important on a daily basis, but still kind of fun for Halloween. But Google Trends is really great because, again, you can put in any one of your keywords and see over time how many people are searching for it. And so that will kind of help identify the type of traffic that's coming to your website as well.
Awesome. Just jump to the next question real quick. It seems like it takes a huge budget to advertise online. What can I do if we can't afford that? I think probably a question we get asked all the time. The perfect world of marketing is obviously huge budgets, but that's really not true. I think that we get this question a lot, and my simple answer would be that you don't need a large budget to do good marketing. What you need to do is do targeted marketing with the budget that you have. If you try to spread your budget out too thin over too many things, I don't think that you will find the success that you would if you just focused on in one area and put the majority of the funds to that and then did it well, and as you saw success within that, move to the next kind of most productive channel that you might use. I think that it's always good to have a marketing mix. That said, I mean, you definitely have to have a few things, but if you're going to have a limited budget, where can you place those dollars that is the most strategic and actually going to get you the highest return for your money, and then use that return to then build up the budget and add more channels as you go down the line. So I don't actually think you need a big budget. I think it's what you do with the budget you have, but don't think that you can do everything if you don't have a giant budget. I know we run into that problem here a lot where people really want everything, and it's just really not possible, and you'll get negative campaigns because of it. Any thoughts on budget, John?
Yeah, it's funny because it seems that the people that would be asking that questions are probably the smaller local businesses, which that every single dollar they're spending has to have a result behind it. It's not just some kind of a mindless budget that somebody puts out that doesn't have to work as well. Those local dollars really have to work every single time, and so it seems to me, my father-in-law, he's a chiropractor in Alpine, he kind of came to me with the same question. And for $100 in PPC, that goes a pretty long way when people aren't they're not searching chiropractor in Alpine every day. There's not a huge search volume, but it's working for him. But again, with any local business, you want to make sure that you're focusing on those reviews, whether it's on Google or Yelp or Foursquare or anywhere like that. Make sure you're focusing on those reviews and getting as many reviews as you can. Even though sometimes they might be negative, just make sure you respond to them. And so, again, those local dollars.
Don't be scared.
Yeah. So.
I think budget's just something that you guys need to manage as well as you can. Next question, our third question, is really actually I've been looking at this, trying to figure out how I might answer it. I don't have time to stay current on the advertising world. How can our company have an impact without spending too much time on marketing? That's a great question. But there are actually a lot of ways to do it. One of my specialties is actually marketing automation, and marketing automation is a fantastic tool for helping you minimize the amount of hours that you're spending and maximizing the personalization that you're able to deliver. It doesn't cost all that much money, and there is a bit of setup time because what you're ultimately doing is repopulating responses based on user behavior. And for the most part, people really enjoy this. When it's done well, people find the marketing automation leads to higher conversion rates and larger spends with the company. And so marketing automation is a great solution where you don't have a lot of even marketing knowledge. Just staying relevant and having touch points on each of your potential clients and current clients is huge. And so that's one solution that you could do. But maybe something less engaged, I guess, is marketing automation. John, anything come to mind as a simple, quick win?
Just writing consistently on your blog. When I say consistently, I'm not talking about twice a day or once a day for the next 4 weeks. Whatever your schedule is, just stick to it. If that's once a week, that's once every other week, stick to it. Because not only will that help establish that you guys really are thought leaders within your industry, but it will also help search engines because search engines love that text content on your website. And so it's kind of twofold in the sense that it helps really identify that branding and that really strong presence that then you can go share on all of your social networks as well. That content that you're creating, custom content, will go a very long way both for search engines and for your customers.
I would agree. That is our third question. We're at about 50 minutes or so, and so we'll go ahead and just close up this session of the Fluid Webinar Series event. And we just want to make sure that you're invited to next month. Next month will be the year in review, a look back at our own predictions for 2015 and see how we did and where the industry fell as well. And so we actually really look forward to seeing that trend. And that's, as always, the last Tuesday of every month at 11:30. And so we look forward to having you guys join us again then. And for now, I will say thank you from Fluid. Jonathan, thank you for sharing with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me on this one. It was fun.
Absolutely. Until next time, you can find us on Twitter at Fluid Webinar Series, and we will be in touch through our website, and feel free to call us or contact us in any other way. We're here to help. Have a good one.